Join me, and together we can rule the galaxy as father and son.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Nerdy Multiverse in yet another breakdown. Today we will be breaking down and giving our initial thoughts on episode 8 of the Ahsoka series. Unfortunately, being the finale of the show or season, which really sucks because it's been a great series. And this episode was a very fun and action-packed finale. That was a great send-off for the season or series, with some big reveals that will lead to some game-changing things for the future of this entire franchise. And the title of this episode being The Jedi, the Witch, and the Warlord. A very Narnia-inspired title. The finale starts off on Peridea with Thrawn, as the Chimera's cargo transfer has been completed. All of the coffins or possibly even cryo chambers have been boarded onto the ship. So now they are ready to depart the planet and in turn, this galaxy. As for what is in these pods or caskets, well, it's gotta be a ton of ancient Night Sisters in my opinion. Either they are dead and waiting to be resurrected, or they are just in eternal sleep waiting to be woken up, as the Great Mothers were. Thrawn tells Morgan Elsbeth to bring the Eye of Sion, being the hyperspace ring of course, out of orbit so that they can attach the Chimera to it and get out of there, as now is their time. She says that there is nothing that the Jedi can do now, but again, he says that he has seen far too many Imperials underestimate a Jedi before and suffer for it, referring to Luke's actions during the war and how he took down the Empire all by himself, technically. Thrawn also fell victim to the heroics of a single Jedi, but it can't happen ever again, referring to Ezra's actions at the very end of Rebels, which is why they are even in this newfound galaxy to begin with. And for her overesteemed loyalty towards Thrawn and more importantly, the Empire, Elsbeth is gifted for her loyalty, as the Great Mothers use their dark magic to power her up with the Gift of Shadows. They also use their magic to summon a weapon for her to wield, and this is the Blade of Talzin, as they say here. This is the same exact blade obviously used by the Great Mother Talzin herself. We even saw her use this one when she fought Mace Windu in the Clone Wars. It is a very powerful blade imbued with the Night Sisters' dark magic so that it can combat with that of a lightsaber. We then cut to Ezra aboard the T6 Jedi shuttle as he puts together a brand new lightsaber himself, as they reminisce over Ezra's old master, Kanan Jarrus, and how he taught Ezra everything that he knew, including how to build a lightsaber, which Huyang taught him. Kanan's teachings to Ezra come from his own master, Depa Billaba, who was a student of Mace Windu's. So all in all, Ezra is a part of a very powerful line of Jedi. Huyang gives Ezra the emitter piece that only one other Jedi has used before, of course being Kanan Jarrus himself. And Ezra puts together a saber that nearly replicates Kanan's own saber. This was a beautiful touch and a great way to honor the character. As they talk about all of this and how Ezra has turned out to be a great student of Kanan's, Sabine sits in the back and hears all of this and takes it all in. And she is clearly growing a bit upset and possibly even jealous about this, as she herself thinks that she has failed as a student to Ahsoka. Ezra wonders what happened between those two, and Huyang says that Sabine was training with anger, and her emotions stemmed from the Great Purge of Mandalore, the Night of 1,000 Tears, when the Empire completely glassed and destroyed all of Mandalore towards the end of the war, eliminating thousands of Mandalorians, including Sabine's own family. Explaining that Ahsoka felt that if Sabine unlocked her full potential due to the feelings she had because of what happened on Mandalore, she would be very dangerous. Sabine then heads outside of the ship and her and Ahsoka talk with one another, and Ahsoka talks to her about Anakin, her master, and how he stood by her side even when nobody else did. This is referring to the entire Jedi Temple bombing arc during the Clone Wars and how Ahsoka was framed by Barriss Offee. Nobody in the Jedi Order believed in Ahsoka and they all turned their back on her and put her on trial. Besides Anakin, of course, who did everything he could to fix the situation. Which is how Ahsoka was free from any consequences as Anakin brought Barriss to justice. But that is when Ahsoka still decided to part ways with the Jedi Order. Her master did this for her her, so she promises that she will do the same for Sabine. She also says that being a Jedi is not about having a lightsaber. This is almost the exact same thing that Kanan Jarrus said to Ezra during Rebels. As Ezra arrives outside with them, 2 TIE fighters fly in and fire upon the group, and long story short, they do take the 2 ships down, but it ultimately causes them to crash land the T-6 Jedi shuttle, where Thrawn is informed of this news, suggesting that they should prepare for ground assault. First, raining fire down as Ahsoka, Sabine, and Ezra approach the old fortress. But they dodge all of the explosions and work together to use the Force, even Sabine, to open the gate and get inside. And once inside, they continue to work together to take down the huge number of night troopers attacking them, in which they do eliminate them all. But it is not over, as the Great Mothers use their dark magic once more to resurrect the night troopers into zombies. So I guess these guys weren't actually zombies before, they just had that reforged armor in the Kensuke style, which was also likely done by the Great Mothers as well. No matter what our heroes do here, these guys just keep on rising back up from the dead and coming after them. So they close the blast doors and continue their way up to reach the Chimera and stop Thrawn. They are ready for departure, but the Jedi are closing in, so they require a little bit more time. Thrawn informs Elsbeth of this, so she will stay behind and distract the Jedi long enough by battling them, ultimately sacrificing herself for Thrawn and the Empire, but in her eyes, this is for Dathomir. So as the Jedi trio make their way up, they are met by Morgan and Elsbeth, who is waiting for them and of course wielding the blade of Mother Talzin. She lets Sabine and Ezra pass and begins dueling Ahsoka by herself. And by the way, the choreography for this fight was incredible. Now, obviously, Morgan didn't just let these 2 pass and let them get to Thrawn. She knew that they wouldn't make it there in time because they are greeted by 2 Death Troopers, resurrected from the dead with their brute strength and insane durability, throwing the 2 around and taking lightsaber attacks like they are nothing. Sabine gets thrown against a wall and the zombified Death Trooper starts to choke her, and she tries her best to use the Force to grab her lightsaber, and finally it works and she frees herself and they defeat the 2 Death Troopers. But Thrawn's ship is flying away, so Ezra has to make a jump for it, but it's too far. So of course, Sabine helps him by using the Force to push him across. Now, I guarantee you that people are going to be upset that Sabine can use the Force now, but we have to remember this aspect of anyone being able to use the Force has always been a concept, ever since George Lucas owned the company and ran things. But we also have to remember that Sabine may have that connection to Tar Vizsla, the first ever Mandalorian Jedi. So with that being the case, I guess you could also say that Sabine is now the official heir to Tar Vizsla's legacy as the second full-blown Jedi Mandalorian. Grogu is going to be the next one, but obviously he is not fully there yet himself. Ezra, now aboard Thrawn's ship, takes down the 2 guards waiting for him and intercepts the communications, disguising himself as the trooper that he took down. Sabine stays behind with Ahsoka to help her take down the night troopers and Morgan Elsbeth, in which they do as Ahsoka uses her swift moves to eliminate Morgan Elsbeth once and for all, although her Shoto blade is actually destroyed during this duel. They then jump onto the T-6 Jedi shuttle at the last minute and try to catch up to Thrawn's ship, where Thrawn opens up communications to speak with Ahsoka. He commends her for her actions, saying that she was a worthy opponent. But once he knew that she was Anakin Skywalker's former apprentice, he calculated everything accordingly, as he knew her master and how similar the 2 actually are. But one wonders how similar they may become, referring to the fact that Anakin turned into Darth Vader, saying that perhaps this is where a Ronin, such as herself, belongs. Now, if you didn't already know or pick it up here, Thrawn actually knew who Anakin was personally, and he was one of the very few people who knew or suspected that he was Darth Vader. Thrawn jumps into intergalactic hyperspace and leaves Ahsoka's ship in peril from the power of the ring, and in turn, leaving them behind in this galaxy. So they basically just swapped places. Thrawn and Ezra are now back in the original galaxy, and now everyone else is stuck here. Ahsoka and Sabine return to the Hermit Crab people and set up their home there for the time being until they can find a way back home. But as Ahsoka looks off into the distance, we can see that the Morai owl is sitting on a rock watching over her. This owl has followed Ahsoka and watched over her forever. We've seen it in The Mandalorian, in Rebels, and now of course here. Now Morai the owl is actually the daughter, or rather an aspect of her. The daughter is one of the Mortis gods, representing the light side of the Force itself. And her connection with Ahsoka has been very strong and very close ever since the Mortis arc in Clone Wars, where she practically sacrificed herself and her essence to bring Ahsoka back to life. We finally catch up with our Dark Jedi mercenaries as Shin Hati goes to the Nomads camp and raises her lightsaber, signifying that she is going to join them and likely lead them in the future, as Baylan Skoll walks atop a statue overlooking a mountain range in the distance. And the statue that he is standing on is that of the fathers, and the son statue is to the right of it and the daughter's is to the left. Although her statue is damaged, likely because Ahsoka has now taken on that mantle, being the embodiment of the light side of the Force. The father was the balance of the Force, what lies in between, and the son was the embodiment of the dark side, and of course, as I said earlier, the daughter was the embodiment of the light side. Baylan looks over at the mountains as a light glimmers over one of them. This is similar to the mountaintop on Mortis that Anakin saw in the Clone Wars. So Baylan could just be going there, and he will meet with one of or all three of the Mortis gods. But if they truly died in Clone Wars and this isn't that same planet, this could be something far different and far more sinister and evil. This could perhaps be where the Mortis gods first were, but they left after imprisoning the mother here at that very mountain. And the mother being Abeloth, the embodiment of pure evil and death. Far worse than the sun and much more dangerous. There are even a few subtle hints pointing towards this, all leading to Abeloth's eventual emergence in this episode. But anyways, the Chimera, now back in our galaxy, approaches the planet of Dathomir. The first time that we have seen it in live action, and I think that the Great Mothers are about to become some very powerful allies for Thrawn, as they will awaken their sisters and possibly even resurrect those on Dathomir itself. Ezra arrives on Hera's ship and the two reunite, and of course he also reunites with his buddy Chopper. Ahsoka and Sabine overlook the landscape of Peridea as they pack up camp at the Hermit Crab people's place, and they speak of Ezra's return back home, and how he is where he needs to be, but also how they are where they need to be now, and it's time to move on. Sabine looks back out at the horizon almost like she is sensing something, but she says it's nothing, like a shadow in the starlight. Now this is one of those hints pointing towards Abeloth that I was talking about. The whole shadow and starlight thing really coincides with how people described Abeloth in the novels and in legends. Now, I don't know if Sabine was actually sensing Abeloth here, or if she was sensing the Force ghost that is watching over her and Ahsoka, being Anakin Skywalker, of course, and it kind of seems like Ahsoka can see him as she smiles at the horizon herself, where he stands, smiling down as he looks over his old Padawan. And this is where the finale ends off. And overall, this finale was absolutely incredible and such a great send-off for the series or season. I'm really hoping that we do get a season 2 though. Now, I knew that there would be a big sort of cliffhanger ending, leaving many things unanswered, but I honestly prefer it that way. Now, whether we get a season 2 or an Heir to the Empire sort of movie exploring the rest of this doesn't really matter to me. I just can't wait to see what happens next. This show went a complete 8 for 8 and didn't miss a single time in my opinion. The action was incredible and had some of the best lightsaber duels that we have seen in a very long time. The lore and the world building was absolutely mind-blowing in the show, whether it was the exploration of the Night Sisters or the world between worlds or the Mortis God appearances. Everyone's performance was great, and they all played their respective characters so well. Now, it's obviously very sad that Ray Stevenson has passed away, as his character of Baylan Skoll has a big path forward, and he did such a phenomenal job playing the character. Honestly, one of the most interesting aspects of this entire show. But all in all, I think I would rate the finale a 9 out of 10. More honestly, probably a 10 out of 10. I absolutely loved it, and I want more already. But of course, I would like to hear about your thoughts on this episode and the season as a whole as well, so make sure to leave them down below. Thank you all for watching, and if you enjoyed our breakdown and review on this episode, don't forget to give it a like, and with that being said, we will see you all the next time that we go through and explore the nerdy multiverse.